so I can't I am really extraordinarily disconcerted by the deplorable operational shortcomings of this vehicle.
Well, I'm sorry you're having a problem right now, Mr. Gasaway. We'll get it fixed for you.
Well, that would be conducive toward mitigating my displeasure.
What is the motorcycle doing? Can you describe the problem?
The problem. It's more like problems. Hesitating, surging, popping, too. It's truly exasperating.
Under what conditions?
All the time. When I can persuade it to perform at all, that is.
It doesn't always run?
I had to charge the battery to make it run, and it won't stay charged.
How long has this been going on?
Oh, ever since I brought it back from Tempe. I had to leave it there for a couple of months because my girlfriend, she told me to... Well, anyway, I had to leave it there for a couple of months, and when I went up to retrieve it, it was no longer rideable.
Was it just on the street up there?
It was in a carport, under a tarp.
Anybody ride it?
Absolutely not. Oh, unless you mean like... Oh, no. No, she wouldn't have let any... It ran fine the day I parked it.
And does it do anything besides hesitate?
Oh, certainly. When I first start riding it and it gets up to cruising speed, it pops through the carbs. And when it's hot, it's hard to start. In Bakersfield, I ran the battery down trying.
Does it stop running?
Oh, not on the road. But it does when I come to a stop sign unless I rev it real hard. She's let somebody ride it, hasn't she?
Well, I think your problem's just the opposite. I've had repair orders like this before, and I've developed a method for solving them. In this program, I'll show you how to record the drivability complaints using a job aid and how to identify the causes of the problems. Now, while I interviewed Mr. Gasaway, I was making notes on this diagnostic chart. Across the top is a series of words describing different operating conditions. And when I get these columns filled in, I'll be able to narrow my search for the cause or causes of the complaints with this motorcycle. Let's take a look at what the information on the chart, together with my experience, can tell me about the condition of this shadow. The word hesitates is written at the top of the chart because this was the first clue I got from talking with Mr. Gasaway. In this particular case, it's a critical clue. Now, I can't always expect to get the critical clues first, so I'll always look at the entire chart and all of the information before I begin work on a motorcycle. As you can see, I made check marks in 5 of the columns across from the word hesitates. The first 4 check marks make it clear that the motorcycle has a problem with its slow-speed fuel circuit. In fact, I'm going to predict that the slow-speed circuit, or sometimes called the pilot circuit, isn't operating at all. Here's why. Most hesitations are due to a lean mixture. Remember, only fuel vapor can combine with the oxygen in the air and burn. Liquid fuel won't burn. When the engine is cold, less of the fuel vaporizes, and there may not be enough vapor in the cylinder to support combustion when the plug fires. That's why most cold engines need additional fuel from the choke system. Extra fuel means extra vapor, enough extra to keep the engine firing till it warms up. Now, the chart says the VT700C doesn't want to run hot. It's probably starved for fuel, and I'll bet the slow-speed circuit is completely clogged. Remember, the choke is providing plenty of fuel when the engine is cold, but as the engine heats up, the rider disengages the choke, and the clogged slow-speed jet becomes the only available source. It just can't deliver enough gas to support combustion. It says here that the engine doesn't hesitate at high throttle settings. Well, that makes sense, too. When Mr. Gasaway opens the throttle for brisk acceleration, the main fuel circuits can operate, and they supply enough fuel to support normal combustion, and the engine produces power. Here's another important clue: surging. Now, the surging happens at constant throttle. Constant throttle is almost always a low throttle setting. The VT700C normally will cruise at highway speed with a very low throttle setting. It would be hard for Mr. Gasaway to have the throttle at a constant setting that was high enough to make the slow-speed circuit unimportant. A clogged slow-speed circuit will cause poor running at most speeds, including interstate speeds. The second major clue leading me to suspect the slow-speed circuit is poor starting. Especially important here is the fact that it's harder to get the engine running when it's hot than when it's cold. Now that seems backwards for an over-lean mixture until you remember that it's not over-lean when the choke is on. The choke system supplies so much fuel for starting a cold engine that it doesn't much matter whether the slow-speed circuit is working or not. When that same engine is hot, you can't use the choke at all because hot fuel vaporizes easier and the mixture would be too rich. Now, if the slow-speed circuit is clogged and the choke is off, you'll have no fuel available to start the hot engine. This confirms my suspicion of slow-speed circuit problems. Next, let's look at pops through carbs. As you know, backfiring is nearly always a sign of a lean mixture. Backfiring can be caused by an ignition irregularity or by a valve problem, but that's rarely the case. Fifth is won't idle hot. Once again, the slow-speed circuit is the suspect. Since all the fuel for idling is delivered through the slow-speed circuits, no fuel or not enough fuel would cause the engine to idle poorly or not at all. Numbers 3 and 4 on the questions list are the clues that really put it all together. The machine worked fine until Mr. Gasaway left it sitting for 2 months. And we've all seen the troubles that improper storage can cause. The fuel will deteriorate, and it may form deposits in the fuel jets. The battery will discharge, and if you leave it long enough, it may be damaged by sulfation. Since motorcycles are often parked because of wet weather, or in wet weather, there may be electrical problems because of corroded connectors. Finally, the fact that the cycle ran fine the day it was stored virtually guarantees that the running difficulty is due to some storage-related condition. The check marks in the notes area of the chart are shorthand comments that both I and my technicians understand. They're bold to draw the technician's attention, and they describe the key tests needed or the most likely causes of the problem. The check battery comment was written after Mr. Gasaway told me that he had stored the cycle, had to charge the battery, and that the battery will run down when he tries to start the hot engine. These are all clues that point to a sulfated battery. Now, I wanted to be sure that the technician paid particular attention to the battery inspection. We've all seen the consequences of long and improper storage. The check for storage-related problems will include partial dismantling of the carburetors to clean the deposits that form when gasoline deteriorates. Of course, all of this is clearly defined on the repair order. I'll go ahead with my battery and fuel system inspection and repair. I've already consulted the service bulletins, as I always do before beginning work on a motorcycle. The diagnostic chart allowed me to ask the right questions of Mr. Gasaway. It helped me explain the probable causes of his difficulty and what solutions my experience suggested. I was able to get his written approval on the spot, in case we had to repair the carburetors and replace the battery. It's unfortunate that Mr. Gasaway didn't refer to his owner's manual for the proper storage procedures. In this particular case, we found that both carburetors had clogged slow-speed jets, and the float needles were sticking because of the same deteriorated gasoline. It's a little surprising that the carburetors didn't flood the engine. The battery inspection revealed that it was sulfated beyond recovery and would have to be replaced.
Hey, Doug.
Well, Christy Mogul, what brings you down from the ski slopes?
Gravity, Doug. Every time.
But the Nationals are this weekend. Aren't you going to defend your title?
No, not me. I'm retiring.
Christy, you said last year you'd never retire.
Well, I'll tell you, Doug. I'm going to take up a sport that I can do sitting down. You know, like I say every morning up at the top of the course, it's all downhill from here. I'll tell you what else is going downhill is this cycle of mine.
What's the problem?
Oh, no speed. I can go faster down the bunny hill than I can on this motorcycle lately.
How long has it been doing that?
A few days.
Did you do anything unusual, like change brands of gasoline?
No, it just won't go. Like when I put the wrong wax on my skis. It's like trying to ski on the sidewalk.
Well, I'll take it for a quick test ride and fill out a performance questionnaire. It's really strange. It just won't make power past 2,500 RPM. I don't really suspect the carburation. The slow speed circuit seems okay. There's no smoke from the exhaust to indicate a rich condition. And the gear doesn't seem to make much difference. The problem with this 450 Rebel could be easy to deal with, but hard to find. It won't run strongly above 2,500 RPM. It doesn't matter if the throttle is wide open or only partly open. And it doesn't matter which gear it's in. Since it runs just as badly hot or cold, problem in fuel delivery seems to be ruled out. Question number 2 points to a component failure because Christy mentioned that the problem started suddenly. Also, question 7 confirmed that her service maintenance is up to date. I'll check the service bulletins first to see if this problem is covered there. Then, we'll make a logical series of tests. We'll use the process of elimination to determine the problem. First, we'll check the mechanical condition of the engine. A leak down or compression test will tell us if the valves and rings are sealing properly, at least at low RPMs. We'll check the ignition, and we'll inspect the fuel system, although judging from the symptoms, it doesn't seem to be involved. There was no reference to this kind of problem in our CMX 450C Honda service bulletins. Then I did a leak down test and a compression test, which indicated that the rings and valves are okay. Then, I followed the CDI troubleshooting job aid I got with the full cycle program on CDI. When I checked the timing, I found the problem. This ignition will not advance. I concluded that the advance function of the CDI unit has failed. If further testing proves this to be the case, I'll replace the unit, and Christy will be back up to speed. Hey, Mr. Winger!
Hey.
How's she running?
Well, I don't rightly know what to say about her. She's kind of hesitates.
Hesitates?
Oh, kind of tired.
You look a little tired yourself.
Oh, just got in from Salt Lake City.
Oh, what were you up to Salt Lake for?
Oh, my daughter's wedding. And you want to know how long it took me to get back down here? Huh? It took me 26 days. A new record. But I tell you, there I am, just rolling along. And then, well, that's when it lags.
Lags?
Slows down. Then it picks up and runs great. Then it slows back down again.
Wait a minute, I want to get my chart. It helps me to organize this information. How often does it happen?
All the time. Ever since I bought her. A real shame. A fine machine like her. It surges. Pulses kind of like it's running out of gas.
Mm-hmm. How's the starting?
Not bad.
And when you accelerate, does the surging go away?
Yep. What ought to be the problem?
I've seen this pattern before, Mr. Winger. It looks to me like you have a lean, slow speed circuit. Now, we won't know for sure until we run an idle drop procedure, but I think we can take care of the problem.
Oh, fine. Hey. There's a pin for you.
Oh, thanks. Mr. Winger's problem with his GL1200 shows all the classic signs of a lean, slow-speed circuit. The engine surges at low and steady throttle setting. It surges worse when it's hot. Opening the throttle enough to get onto the main fuel system causes the surge to disappear. And the problem is sensitive to engine temperature and throttle setting. The engine's RPMs don't seem to be a factor. Mr. Winger's difficulty has been with him since he bought the bike new. The machine hasn't been stored, so it's unlikely to just have clogged jets. I referred to the service bulletins before proceeding. If they didn't offer a solution, I would start testing the mechanical condition of the engine with a leak down or compression test. If it's mechanically sound, I'd test the ignition system. Next, if the ignition system is okay, I'd check the fuel system, since the chart's clues point in that direction. I would do a normal recalibration of the pilot mixture screws, the idle drop procedure, and synchronize the carburetors. But the answer was here among the service bulletins for the GL. Bulletin GL 1200 number 10 addresses our problem specifically. It seems that some 84 GL 1200s and some 85 GLs ran poorly on the stock slow jets, and Honda has a kit to correct this. In the kit, there are 4 larger slow jets. It could be a warranty item if the frame number checks against the list here in the bulletin, and if the cycle is still under warranty. If I hadn't looked in the service bulletins book before starting on Mr. Winger's GL, I could have spent hours chasing a problem that Honda already had a solution for. The Honda-approved kit will allow us to solve Mr. Winger's difficulty. And get this, I didn't have to touch the cycle to find the problem or the solution. Not bad. Now, sometimes I'm faced with a really mysterious problem. I gather all the information. I do the 5 principal tests, the leak down test, the compression test, the timing, the idle drop procedure, and carburetor synchronization. And if I still don't know what's wrong, as a last resort, I fill out this form and call the American Honda Tech Line number and get their advice. It's a handy service when you've tried everything and come up blank. In each of these cases, careful questioning and a written record saved all of us a lot of time and trouble. I was able to diagnose the problem areas more accurately and quickly. I then passed the chart on to the technician so he didn't have to search me out to get an idea of what was wrong with the motorcycles. And the owners, fully informed up front, didn't get any unwelcome phone calls about some unforeseen expensive repair. Mr. Winger learned the value of correcting conditions while the machine is still under warranty. Christie is back in the fast lane, and by the time Mr. Gasaway got his estimate, he learned how big a mistake he made by leaving gas in the float bowl in Tempe.